All right, you ready to kick this off?
Dude, let's kick
Yeah.
it.
All right, folks, welcome to the Defiance Daily Show. I'm your host, Travis Roberts, with a co-host here, Mark Pruitt, and we've got in studio Steve Toth, representative from Texas, who just recently announced some very big news as far as his next steps as a representative from Texas, moving to the federal level.
Going from Austin to Washington, D.C.
Austin to Washington, D.C., running for Dan Crenshaw's seat.
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
welcome to the broadcast.
Good to be with you, brother.
Oh, yes. Steve, what made you want to run against Dan Crenshaw?
You know, in 2018, when Dan decided to run, it was a huge field of people, and I only knew a couple of them. And the one individual that was garnering all the attention was a member of the House, Texas House, who was very squishy. And the idea of sending a squish to Washington just didn't excite me. And out of nowhere comes this Navy SEAL, war hero, wounded veteran. I love SEALs. I've been involved with Mighty Oaks for years and helping veterans with post-traumatic stress. And I just have real hard for these guys. And so I guess it was a man crush.
Yeah.
You know? And I thought he was going to be great. He sounded great. He said all the things that we wanted to hear, that he was going to be somebody that would go to Washington and be a disruptor. And unfortunately, he's been anything but that. This is somebody that found a home in Washington as quickly as he got there. Very sad.
It's fair to say he's submitted himself inside the mainstream establishment over there in Washington. He's silent on a lot of issues. There's a lot of people in his district we know that are not happy about it. So it's really awesome to see you take this next step in your career and go for a very volatile seat. And I got to ask, have you experienced any political shenanigans yet? Because one thing I've heard personally, and I'll tell a little story real quick. Crenshaw, whenever I believe it was Christian Collins, he was running against who was the other fellow?
He was running against Jamison Ellis.
Yes. Yes, but Dan Crenshaw, Luttrell, wasn't it Luttrell?
Yeah, Christian ran against Morgan.
Yeah,
That's right.
ran against Morgan. Yes.
And apparently, that him and Crenshaw were really close. And I remember my dad, causing enough of a stir to where it got Crenshaw's attention. Christian Collins was showing me this text from Crenshaw. I don't know if we could.
Yeah, you can say it.
Whatever.
Yeah,
but it was this huge tirade. I mean, an emotional, attacking response. And I'm looking at Christian. Is that really a text from? Man, that's like some very, very strong arm type of language in there. Anyway, long story short, we were doing some political things during the day. I get back to my house, and all over my door are pamphlets for Crenshaw. And I was the only person on the block on my street who had all that crammed inside my door. And I thought, that is a little odd, a little creepy at the same time. To come, I'm not very involved politically, but for somebody in his campaign to show up and shove flyers and things in my door after he found out this stuff about my dad and who he was backing and all this, it didn't sit well with me. So I got to ask Steve, have you experienced any shenanigans politically yet?
Texas is the 8th largest economy in the world, and it's not that much different. Austin is not that much different than Washington, D.C. in that, this isn't Alabama. It's not Delaware. It's the 8th largest economy in the world. It's bigger than Russia. It's bigger than Australia. It's bigger than Canada. It's bigger than Mexico. And it's a $330 some odd billion budget. And because of that, you see a lot of bottom dwellers that want to protect the incumbents. And so we're ready for it. Haven't seen it yet, but we're more than ready for it. We've experienced it already. I mean, the reality is that every 2 years, the Associated Republicans of Texas sends somebody to run against me. Why? Because they don't like people that say no to them. And they don't like people that want to bend the status quo. And you know, they've probably thrown more crap at me than anybody in the Texas House.
Now, can you speak to the timeline as far as your run for this seat? What are the expectations as far as timelines are concerned? What do voters need to understand about this timeline and how they can go and support you?
Love to have you go to my website, SteveTothForCongress.com, SteveTothForCongress.com, or if you're feeling kind of lazy that day, just SteveToth.com. We'll get you there. And we, more than anything, we really just need financial help at this point. We know that we're going to be outspent. The lobby is going to spend an enormous amount of money trying to protect him. But the reality is that truth cuts through BS like a hot knife through butter. And we'll beat him. We're going to beat him.
Yeah, and it's really important, folks. Make sure you hit the Steve Toth for Congress link below. Donate to the campaign. One of the biggest or one of the most important aspects to these types of runs are funding. Fundraising is very key here. So make sure when you hit the Steve Toth for Congress link that you go straight to the donate button and show your support there. We'd really appreciate that because we are definitely rooting for you, Steve, and really excited to see how this is going to turn out. This should be a fun ordeal to watch, to say the least.
What are you guys working on? I think, in correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it seems to me that the primaries in Texas, maybe it's like this in all the states, but Republicans are notoriously bad at not showing up in the primaries. And we've got open primaries here in Texas. So that creates a whole nother issue of itself. What is your strategy for voter turnout and the shenanigans you're going to have to put up with to just get through the primary process? Because this isn't the general election. We're talking about the primary here. And maybe you can just take a little time. Steve, we got time. Explain to voters what is the difference between the primary and the general.
So the most important vote is the primary because we're selecting our candidate to go up against the Democrat. It's pretty much a fait accompli in November that the Republican will win because it's a 65-35 district, 65% Republican to 35% Democrat. But what's really important is that you turn out March 3rd and vote for the conservative. If you want a conservative, now's the time. You turn out March 3rd. And it's typically about 1 in 10 general election voters are going to turn out and vote in the primary. But why this is really critically important and what you just hit on earlier about the fact that we have open primaries in Texas. Why does that matter? When you go in to the voting booth, you ask for either a Republican primary ballot or a Democrat primary ballot. And if you ask for a Republican primary ballot, you can only vote for Republicans. But you could be a Democrat and ask for those and have a say. And it's not so much in the primary where Democrats voting is the most danger. It's in runoffs. And there's a decent chance that this could go into a runoff. And we saw this in Dade Phelan's runoff for the Texas House. Dade Phelan was the Speaker of the Texas House. And
that was drunk Dade, right?
That would be the one. That would be the one. Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if you didn't want to say that because you have too much.
Yeah.
You have decorum, but I'll say it.
So it went into a runoff, and the reality is that it was close, maybe by like a couple hundred votes, pushed it into a runoff. And unfortunately, the woman that caused that runoff had pulled out just earlier, but she was still on the ballot. So she still did the damage. All the people that voted for her would have voted for David Covey. And that's what turned it into a runoff. Well, in the runoff, once it goes into a runoff, if you took a Republican primary ballot, you can turn out for the Republican primary runoff, right? If you're a Democrat and you ask for a Democrat primary ballot, you can't turn out for the Republican runoff. Well, so what Karl Rove did was they found roughly 3,400 Democrats that are typical primary voters that just didn't turn out for the primary, right? And because it's not a closed primary, they spent millions of dollars on 3,400 of these people. They got 1,400 of them to turn out and vote. And David Covey lost to Dade Phelan by 44 votes.
Bingo.
Oh my goodness.
And he was selected by Democrats. And hence the problem with having open primaries in Texas.
Can you explain that a little bit? We had John Boucher in here a couple weeks ago, had a great interview with him. As you know, he's running for the state representative. Explain the dynamic and we'll get into the congressional run. Explain the dynamic from your perspective, your point of view, what's going on in Austin now, and the power dynamic between the Democrats and the Republicans. We've got a commie speaker, and what does that create?
So we put a group together, myself and Tony Tinderholt and Nate Chasline, Brian Harrison, and we built a coalition. We called it the Reform Coalition, and we started out with just the four of us, and then 15 new freshmen came in, and so it was the 15 of them plus the four of us. Then we hit 19, and then Jam Lozano joined us, and we were 20, and then little by little we grew. Tom Oliverson then threw his hat into the ring and said, "I want to become the next speaker." And now we're at 21, and we're at 23, and then we're at 30, and then we're at 40, and then we're at 50, then we're at 60, right? Well, there are only 88 Republicans. And yet, unfortunately, roughly 21 Republicans would not join us.
What does that tell you?
Wow.
Right?
What
So
does that tell
you're
you?
literally at 2/3 the Republican part of the Republican caucus, and 21 would not join us. And they came into the caucus. The rules say really clearly that we're supposed to go in and caucus together in November, and whoever gets 2/3 is the heir apparent speaker, and that's who you have to vote for on the House floor. Well, we had 2 votes. They couldn't come close to getting the number of votes that they wanted, and so these 21 just walked out.
Wow.
Just walked out.
These are Republicans.
Yeah.
They walked out. They walked out, and then 3 hours later announced that they had the 76 votes because they had cut a deal with the Democrats, and that's how it went down. It was just terrible. It was so agonizing because we did everything the right way. We played by the rules, worked really hard, brought this coalition together, and then we get sacked. And you look at it and you're like, okay, 21 Republicans and 66 Democrats, or 62 Democrats, I'm sorry. So basically 2/3 Democrats, 1/3 Republican in this coalition that made Dustin Burrows the speaker. Gee, who's in control there? Well, the Democrats are, obviously, right? Because
Clearly.
What kind of power does the speaker in Texas have?
it's incredible power. They name all the committee chairs. They name the parliamentarian. And you may have seen the video footage of me going to the back mic. Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry, state your inquiry, Mr. Toth. I'm looking at HR 3 and I see the initials HB down at the very bottom. Does HB stand for Hugh Brady? And it was just quiet for like 5 minutes. And I finally am like, I'll wait. Hello, is anyone there? And he finally said, yes, it does. It stands for Hugh Brady. Well, who's Hugh Brady? Hugh Brady was Barack Obama's West Wing lawyer.
Oh my.
And this is a guy that was calling balls and strikes on all of our bills. And can I share a quick story about what he?
Yeah, we got lots of time.
Okay, so this is crazy. So Jenny Stevenson was just a wonderful patriot that lived here in Montgomery County, and she's just a wonderful lady, and she died a couple years ago. and we named a bill after her, the Jenny Stevenson Voter Integrity Act. And what this bill did was it put a barcode on all the absentee ballots. So a ballot had to scan out in order for it to scan in. So if you saw the elections, how the elections were stolen in Georgia, they took ballots, absentee ballots, and they ran them through the counter multiple times. These ballots were for Biden, and so they scanned the same ballot over and over again. And in some cases, they just had fraudulent ballots that were never mailed out in the first place. How do we know they weren't mailed out? Well, because they were never folded. How do we know they weren't folded? Well, in the Senate hearings, it showed that when you trifold a piece of paper and you can look at it underneath the scan electron microscope, it shows the crease mark where the fibers are broken from it being trifolded. These had never been trifolded. So, and they were printed off of a copier, and they were all for Biden. None of them were for Trump. So the point is, you got to have a ballot that scans out in order for it to scan in. If it can't scan out, if it hasn't scanned out, it can't scan in. And so, anyways, I could not get my bill heard. And so there, one of the things that I worked really hard on, I've passed most of my legislation as amendments because they try and shut you down. So I took all my bills, turned them into amendments, and we looked for bills that we could catch a ride with to turn in, to make it become law. Well, John Busey's a Democrat, and he has a bill called ballot tracking. I mean, that's the title of it, ballot tracking. I'm like, boom,
Easy enough.
This is it, right? So I lay my bill out. Busey goes to the back microphone, and he says, Mr. Speaker, rise to call point of order on Representative Toth's bill as it's not germane. His amendment is not germane to my bill. And we go down and we argue in front of Hugh Brady, and Hugh said, of course it's germane. It's completely germane. And I'm like, I win. It's germane, right? And then he says, however, and I said, there's no however. You're not the pitcher. You're the umpire.
Right.
You call balls and strikes. You don't get to throw the ball. There's no damn however. And he goes, however, Representative Toth, your ballot barcode, your barcode is on the ballot, not the envelope. And I said, show me in Mr. Busey's bill where you see anything about envelope or ballot. And I said, trust me, it's not in there. And so he pushes back from his chair. So he literally come up with a point of order for the Democrats that they didn't even think to call, which that's unheard of. You don't do that. And so he then says, however, and I said, no, Hugh, there's no however. You don't get to call points of order. This is ridiculous. And the speaker is Dave Phelan's just sitting back there doing nothing. And he says, however, he said, point of completion. I said, what's point of completion? And Cody Vasut, who's an attorney, parliamentarian specialist, goes, what is point of completion? He said, Mr. Busey's bill ends when they receive the ballot. Yours doesn't end until the ballot is counted.
Wow.
So point of order.
Wow.
Point of order sustained. I said, you're making up a point of order for them. You didn't sustain a point of order from them. They didn't give this to you. This is ridiculous. So anyways, yeah, it's just, and so this past session, I used my seniority pick, left appropriations, and used it to get on to elections. And because I wanted my bill passed, and they killed my bill again. How'd they kill my bill? Well, Matt Shaheen, who was the Republican chairman, killed my bill, made sure that it never got to the House floor.
So these are Republicans.
Okay, here this is making my.
He said
why?
He said it was his. He said Matt told me. I had like multiple bills that I wanted heard. One of them was an audit bill. So you have to hold on to election material for 22 months after the election, although no one's allowed to look at it. The material. Did you know that? We have to hold on to our material for 22 months. although no one's allowed to look at it. And so I carried a piece of legislation that President Trump supported. Um, he has asked myself and Senator Betancourt to carry it every single session. And so I carried it again. And Shaheen said, there's no point, there's no purpose for a piece of legislation like this, blah, blah, blah. But I do like this barcode thing. And he said, I'm going to make sure that that becomes law. I'm like, yeah, right. We'll see.
Right.
That's just because the Democrats hadn't seen it yet. And the Democrats, the vast majority of the fraud that occurred in the 2020 election was absentee ballots. It was the lion's share of it. Was there some electronic voting fraud? I have no doubt that there was. But the vast majority has always been absentee ballots. And that is what they fear the most, that we are going to stop. And that's why Trump right now is pushing so hard to eliminate absentee ballots. So that is where the vast majority of the fraud is taking place.
And the absentee ballots, that really came to the forefront of this election integrity issue after COVID, did it not?
Yeah.
We knew it was happening before, but after COVID, it went full tilt.
It was voter rolls and absentee ballots, right? Which they wanted to make, everything absentee ballots, right? Because of COVID. It created the perfect storm for them. And there was a record number of absentee ballot voting. And it's the perfect storm for ballot harvesting and everything else. It's just
so in the efforts that you had made to introduce legislation that would greatly diminish that capability, is it safe to say, based on what you've told us here, that it wasn't stopped by Democrats, it was actually stopped by Republicans?
No, it sounds like we're stopped by the Germains.
Oh, the Germain.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Steve.
the Germans, yes. No, it was killed by those damn Republicans. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Seriously. Okay. I'm. No.
Yeah, Mark, don't do it,
Don't get
dude.
him started, right?
Well, no, seriously, Steve. RINOs are more dangerous than Democrats. Personally, if you ask me, the RINOs do more damage than Democrats. I'm not asking you to
No, full stop.
to appreciate that or agree with that, but
the thing I've always loved about your dad was that he always spoke plain, and I've always been willing to. You ask me the right question, I'll give you a straight, honest answer. The Republicans are the greatest threat to us holding on to liberty. It's not the Democrats. The Democrats are making absolute fools of themselves right now. I mean, they're so out of step. We could absolutely have our way with them right now.
Oh man, that's that's the most frustrating aspect to all this.
It's like
they are low hanging fruit right now.
You've got the valley. You've got the valley, which was bright blue 3 election cycles ago, and it went from bright blue to orange, now red, and it's going to be bright red in this next election cycle. And we're just doing everything we can. I'm not going to say we. I hate that. The Republicans are doing everything they can to cozy up to these Democrats and just say we don't want you to feel left out. We don't want you to look. I mean, here's the reality: is that if we were a blue state, the Democrats would put their boot on the necks of Republicans and would not remove it until we were dead, until there was not an ounce of life left in us. But for some reason, we feel like we need to pander and to work with these people. And the biggest, you guys have heard me say this before. People are tired of hearing me saying it. The biggest problem with the Republican Party is that when we win elections, we take office. But when Democrats win elections, they wield power.
Yes.
Right.
Bingo.
That is the thing that people love about Trump. He just says, why not? Why don't we? We need to cut the BS. Let's just do this now.
Yeah, can you speak to that a little bit? Because Democrats were real big on norms, right? Norms that they don't follow themselves. When they get, it's like you said, when they get into this position, they absolutely wield the power. But for whatever reason, at least here in Texas, and really at the federal level too, there's a hesitancy to absolutely wield the power. And yes, I would definitely say in this cycle, or in this term of Trump's administration, he's not messing around as far as what he's going to yield. Democrats have no shame in what they do as far as wielding some of this power, and we're seeing Trump take to that effect as well. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So take redistricting.
There you go.
Just look at what has been going on in New England.
Yep.
6 states, 15 million people, 43% Republican, not one single Republican member of Congress.
Right. Bingo.
And so in Illinois, look at Illinois, look at California. If we use the same metrics in Texas as they use in California or they use in Illinois, we would be leaving the Democrats with 3.
Exactly.
That's crazy, man.
3
Exactly.
seats. Instead, we're leaving them with 8. Why? Why are we doing this? And I mean, it's just bat crap crazy, and it makes me nuts. And it took common sense from Donald Trump to say, why are we doing this? Why are we giving them all these seats? Why are we making it nearly impossible for Republicans to hold on to power in Congress when Republicans have showed up at a gunfight with a butter knife against the Democrats? And that's really the problem is we need to fight the way they fight.
In your experience in the Texas legislature, what do you think this is, as far as feeling like you have to pander to basically your opponent? Is this something new? Is this something that's always been around? In your experience, what do you think is driving a lot of this?
You have virtuous people that serve in the Republican Party.
These are the what I call the moral posturers, right?
You have virtueless people that serve as Republicans in office looking for a way to show themselves virtuous. And so they hold out their hand to the Democrats to show them how fair they are. And, it's pathetic.
So it's a career orientated mindset, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
It's on purpose,
it's
right?
Really, no, honestly, it's mental illness. It's what it is.
I'll take it a step further. And I hear a lot of people talking about, they'll call people like this crazy or stupid. And Travis gets tired of me hearing this, but I say words mean things. Steve, I don't think they're crazy and I don't think they're stupid. I actually think they're evil.
Yeah.
And the reason why I make that distinction, we do not, a civilized society does not punish the stupid or the crazy. We do deal with evil. And I think until we start dealing with evil the way evil needs to be dealt with, we're going to continue to have this problem. And that's what we need to do. So I'm on a campaign of saying, don't call these Democrats and these RINOs stupid. Don't call them crazy. Don't call them mentally ill, because then you're stuck with them, because we don't punish or deal with people like that. They are evil. They are evil. And we've got to start addressing it like that.
100% agree. 110% agree, Mark. I mean, it's evil. If you want to cut the penis off a little boy,
thank you. That is not great. That is evil.
You're evil.
You're
if you want to
evil.
cut the breasts off a little girl,
Yes,
you're freaking evil.
right.
And you listen to Chloe Cole and Prisha Mosley and some of these kids that are detransitioning, and how devastated their lives have become when they realize that they've been had by the trans cult. There's no sense of compassion for these kids.
No, matter of fact, the people detransitioning, they'll silence you, they'll reprimand you.
They're doxxed.
Yeah.
They're threatened. They are treated like crap. And yet I thought you guys were the ones that all means all, right? And loving all means all. I thought, well, what about detransitioners? You don't love detransitioners? You people are the ones that screwed with their heads enough to make them want to do this. And when they realize they did the wrong thing, you want to throw them off a cliff. I mean, it's it's evil.
Is it fair to say too, given the latest in the news cycles, we are actually seeing the fallout of wrapping these loving arms around really a mental illness, and people are now getting shot over this kind of thing. And these people need help. They don't need reinforcement to make them worse
Right.
mentally.
Exactly. And that's my point. Okay. The people that are going through this, there's actually psychological terms. They are mentally ill. And that's my point. We need to help the mentally ill, and then we deal with the evil.
Right. Like we were saying earlier, you don't help a schizophrenic by saying, yeah, that is Batman on the freeway. Why don't you go run up there and jump
Right.
off and try to catch his cape? That's not the loving thing to do. It's
No.
not a loving thing to tell somebody that, no, it's not okay to be who you are. You got to be somebody else. It's the opposite of that. That's not a loving position to take. And we're starting to see a lot of the tide turning culturally. It ain't there yet. I just saw statistics. Ages 13 and up, there are now 2.8 million people ages 13 and up that identify as transsexual.
Unbelievable.
2.8
in the United States.
in the United States.
Here's a really sad thing is that 80 to 90% of them by the age of 22 are going to completely desist or detransition from that. They'll just
If they can.
if you just leave them alone. If you just leave them alone. The problem though is that if you realize that you really are a little girl and you've cut your breasts off and you've been on testosterone now. I had a little girl that a young one, not a little girl, a young woman. She's 26 now. She called my office 3 weeks ago and she's been detransitioning for a couple of years now. And she just wanted, she called my office because she wanted to get her license straightened around where it had her birth name on it, which is a male name, which is a female name. And it was just so sad to see all that she had gone through and all that she had been put through and all the pain and agony that she had gone through. And she's all alone. She's really all alone.
Hey, Steve, real quick. I'm sorry, Travis. I don't mean to
Yeah, you're
interrupt. Hold that right there. Hey, and we don't need to know who she is or anything like that. Would you, if you have a way to contact her, just ask her if she'd be interested in coming in. We would love to interview her on the show. If that's something, you don't even have to tell me, but
Yeah,
anyway,
so
just make a note if that's something she might want to do.
Something that's really cathartic and really soul healing is being able to tell your story and help other people. And the vast majority of these kids that either detransition or desist, the vast majority of them find a lot of healing, soul healing, in being able to help other kids. And I would not be surprised if she wants to do that because she is committed.
Please introduce us if she'd be open to doing that, Steve. Please.
She's a beautiful young woman. And here's the crazy thing is that Tavistock Clinic in London, it's the biggest, it was the biggest transitioning clinic in the world.
That's right.
Europe is 15, 20 years ahead of us, right? Meaning in their sin, and that's what it is. And in this evil.
They are decaying before our very eyes as a result.
In this trans cult. And Tavistock closed the clinic because they're like, wait, 5,000% increase in the number of little girls that want to be little boys.
Oh,
clearly this is mass formation. This is not
a naturally occurring phenomenon. This is being foisted.
It's mass formation. It's a mental illness. And so they shut it down. And they also shut it down because the suicide rate was not going down because we keep hearing this lie. Would you rather have a live son or a dead daughter? Right? That's
what they told Elon.
Total bull crap. Right? That's what they told Elon Musk. That's what they tell everybody. And what they found was that the farther the kids go down this road, and then when they get to the age of 22 and they've lost everything. This little girl, what I've forgotten to tell you about, what they do is they put you on Lupron to
Mhm.
keep you from going through puberty.
Yep.
Once you've gone through puberty, then they put you on a cross-sex hormone. For her, it was testosterone, obviously. And by the time she was 22, now she's looking at cancer, uterine cancer, and so she had a complete hysterectomy.
I mean, and this is the other part too. You're literally sterilizing people
You are.
at the same time.
But it's
so
not.
you
It's not. But bro, it's not just that. You take a little girl and you put her on cross-sex hormones for an extended period of time. She can't even have an orgasm. She can't.
you're destroying
you
every
can't have
biological
the joy-
aspect of
the joy of intimacy,
right.
right? I mean, it's just
It's anti-God.
But
It is destroying
but-
God's perfect creation. Is what it
but they don't. There's no disclosure
No.
about any of this stuff with the
is.
kids.
Unbelievable.
There's none of it. There's none of it about the 80% of them are going to desist or detransition. There's none of this about
Is that the
Hey, you'll-
number? Is it like 80%, Steve?
it's 80%. And so
Oh,
here's what's crazy though, Mark, is that when I when I first got involved in this back in 2019, and we started seeing the statistics, and this is before we saw the huge uptick, this 5,000% increase, which a lot of that was really driven by social media and iPhones.
Oh yeah,
Yep,
for sure.
Unfortunately, but we started looking at all these European studies, which these were huge studies, 3 and 4 and 500 kids, and you can't find those studies today. We printed out a lot of them, but you can't go online and find them anymore.
No, you gotta bury that, especially
They've been completely buried.
when you have a cultish mentality about people don't even realize that the foundational arguments and science supposedly behind this started
Right.
with that Dr. John Money, and people have no
Sick
idea.
crap that guy was.
People have no idea about him,
Steve, we
Alfred
did-
Kinsey, and how those two
I
right
don't know
there,
what shows we did.
they were the foundation for this movement. They were a huge part of the foundation in knocking down a lot of the moral aptitude we had as a country. And it started with the most perverse men you could possibly imagine. Matter of fact, the University of Indiana has erected a statue for Alfred Kinsey. And for those of you not familiar, I highly recommend going to the history of Alfred Kinsey, and you can tell me if that is an ideology you want fostered onto your kids.
So they took babies, male babies, that were 5 and 6 months old, and they brought them to full arousal.
Now, let me clarify that because I'm very familiar with this.
We did-
Full arousal, by the way, to the definition, the literature definition in that book that he wrote was screaming, crying, kicking, pushing back.
Oh my
They
God.
qualified that as full on
Oh.
arousal.
Oh my
And
God.
there's the famous table that everybody's familiar with, where they would time how long it would take to bring a infant to arousal. And there was a whole graph. Where are they getting these kids that young? Number one, we know Alfred Kinsey was working with a Nazi scientist, literally, or at least was using some of his material.
But they had known pedophiles that were bringing
Known
Yes.
pedophiles
Oh,
bringing this in. They were sending out surveys and pamphlets to the known ones, and even the legitimacy around his studies. Supposedly, he was going into prisons and surveying prostitutes and really deranged pedophiles along the same time. And that standard of science is what's still being held up today for what's happening, and not just the morals of culture and sexual identity, but the whole trans movement and everything out there in between. And Dr. John Money was a huge part of that, because Dr. John Money, it's the famous case of the twin boys and what he was having them do with each other. So I highly recommend people go back and watch those two segments. We break down. There's some heroes involved, some good doctors that knew this was happening. Highly encourage people to. But Steve, a lot of people don't know this. Where this came from actually came from minds of sick and evil people.
Truly sick and evil.
Truly sick and evil.
Evil.
Yeah. So there's a book by Judith
There it is.
Reisman
Judith Reisman. Yep.
called Sexual Sabotage.
Yep.
And I want to encourage you to get it. If you can get past the first few chapters,
Yeah.
um,
Judith,
you've really got to, it's weird. You've got to be, I would not encourage just like anybody to go out and buy this book because it will ruin your life.
It's dark, isn't it?
It's
Because it's
just-
so
it's just
evil,
so-
isn't it, Steve?
It's so damn dark and evil. And I guess my greatest stressor with this whole thing is that the church is silent about it.
Yes.
Pastors are silent about it. They don't want to weigh into this. And you know, God does love everybody, but He hates sin. And Scripture talks about in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, there's still a better way, which is prophecy. I wish that you all spoke in tongues and did all these wonderful things, but I wish you'd prophesy. And he's not talking about when Paul uses this expression prophesy, he's not saying that I want you to be able to tell whether it's going to rain tomorrow or not.
Future, right.
He wants you to go out and speak against the sin of an age. And the problem is in the church today, the reason why there is no revival is because pastors are afraid to bring forth the whole truth of God's word. They're afraid to speak about the precepts of the Lord Jesus Christ and the way in which He asks us to live our lives. And because of that, because we're afraid as pastors and leaders within the church to speak up, there's not going to be any healing on our land. If my people, which are called by my name, would turn from their wicked ways, right, then I'd heal their land. Well, that's not going to happen unless pastors are willing to speak out against the sin of our age.
and what the ultimate godly thing to do is to speak out against something like this,
The
because
ultimate love.
50 years down the road, we look at the atrocities of the past and the scientific experiments. Everybody's familiar with these kinds of things, but one day, and I hope that it's the case, we'll look back at this and just what were we doing? And there's a whole industry now, billions of dollars catered towards manipulating these kids into convincing them to have these surgeries. I always said before, that says a lot about a scientific community that they're willing to do something like this for the money aspect to it. Also, a lot of them do have ideological bents in their profession to this. I do want to encourage people. That was good. You brought up Judith Reisman. Miriam Grossman is another one. She wrote a book called Lost in Transnation,
Great book.
and she was getting a lot of parents that were coming to her because they didn't know what to do. Their child comes to them and they're saying, I think I'm this, or I think I'm a boy, or I think I'm a girl. And she is a professional in her own right, and she didn't know how to approach this. This was coming out of the blue in her profession, slowly over time. But if you are curious about different, if you're in a situation like this and you're looking for a little bit of guidance on how you answer these questions and what do you do when you get to that point, I highly recommend checking out Miriam Grossman. The book Lost in Transnation is a really good book, and she's a really good resource for a lot of this stuff. But
Abigail Schreier is another one.
that is, yep.
Irreversible Damage. And there's another book that it's called Gender Madness by Ollie London, and Ollie's gay. He's not a Christian. He's not a conservative. But if you want to hear about, there's a huge movement now among the homosexual population called Gays Against Groomers, and Ollie's one of those homosexuals that will come right out and say that this is a cult.
They're afraid of the blowback because they're going to be caught up in it. And that's the smart ones realize if this pendulum comes back the way it looks like it's coming back, they're going to be swept up in, you're one of them. And that's a legitimate concern on their part.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of folks don't realize too. I mean, when you talk about Alfred Kinsey and John Money, I mean, they come from a deviant bent. I mean, some of them, I know Alfred Kinsey had a fascination with Timothy Leary. You go through the different occult practices that they were, I mean, you just can't make up how evil this really is. And most folks, it's really hard to comprehend. And now it's a good point you made. When you go to read about these folks, yeah, this isn't casual reading material. I would never encourage the same thing. I mean, we're talking about some pretty hardcore stuff here. I mean, this was in Japan, Unit 731. We like to bring it up here on the show because a lot of people don't know about this stuff. These are true crime stories, and a lot of them unresolved, and a lot of the evil machinations and the research and the science and the data that was produced from it. A lot of people involved got immunity, and they came over here and they came into our labs, and they are part and parcel to this whole movement on there. But it's very important that when you're looking at this kind of material, you're coming at it from a place where you want to understand it, you want to know how evil it is. And needless to say, you just take a little glimpse into this, it does. Steve, I was about that was probably 15 years ago now. Wow. When I first heard of Alfred Kinsey, and I watched some of the documentaries that were out there, it did have an effect on me. I think probably a year of looking into that different, it turned me off of the whole thing, because there really is it's a noble effort. These people that work in these agencies that go after these crimes, you have to see the crimes. And that has got to be one of the hardest things to do. So I highly encourage people, when you go and check out these books, know what you're getting into, because you can't make up how demented this stuff is. And it's not even when you talk about Alfred Kinsey, for example, you're not even just talking about their practices and it's what he did to himself. It's what these people do to themselves, and this self-mutilation and their own ideologies that we're now seeing across all the public. It's absolutely fascinating for one, it's terrifying for another, but something's got to give eventually, because you go on for this. We allow this to happen for so long. Who knows what the repercussions are going to be uh, for humanity as a whole.
This is the essence of secular humanism.
Yep.
In secular humanism, there isn't good, there isn't bad, there isn't right or wrong.
It's all relative.
There's just the human condition, and anything that comes from the human condition is purely human, and that's humanism. And so there's nothing wrong with it. And that's the essence of evil. It's the worship of self. It's a godless, joyless existence that there's no difference between you and a blade of grass. Only the blade of grass is infinitely better off, because the blade of grass has no knowledge that there's no difference between yourself and a blade of grass.
Yeah, and this moral relative approach has infected our society, and we are literally seeing the repercussions of that every single day. There's some story, some video going viral that you just step back and ask yourself, how did this happen? But this is a years long effort. This is an intergenerational agenda, I would say. And we're seeing the results of this. So it's really good to see you in studio here at the Defiance Daily Show. Definitely encouraging to see you talk about some of this stuff, because you're obviously you're read up on it. You cited some of these doctors here, so that's very encouraging to see you in this position, and to hear that people who are detransitioning are reaching out to you. So that's really promising, Steve.
We're excited about it. We want to offer these kids hope and love and support, and a community of people that love them and want to come alongside them.
Do you feel the spiritual warfare going on in Austin, Steve? I mean, I'm being literal.
Oh, we're getting deep on the show today.
When you walk into the Capitol, or when,
Yeah.
where do you, seriously, do you have can
Yeah.
you share a little bit with us on that?
So I'll try and be as brief as I can. So
We got time. Tell
okay,
the story.
So it's my first session in the Texas House, and we were trying to pass. This is 2013. We're trying to pass the fetal pain bill, and it gets killed during regular session. So the governor calls a special session for our bill. And keep in mind, we have 101 Republicans in the Texas House. Only we've got Joe Strauss as the speaker.
Oh God.
Right? So it's 101 to 49. We have a 2/3 majority over in the Senate. We're like, we're going to blow through this. We're going to roll these guys like it's nothing, right? Well, they beat us. We had 2/3 majority and they beat us. You're like, how do you get beat? Well, we tried to do it in the flesh. So we called the governor called another special session, and this time the church showed up, and in a really powerful way. I mean, during the June special session, first one where we lost, you literally had Satanists walking the halls chanting "Hell Satan, Hell Satan, Hell Satan."
Oh my God.
While we're trying to pass a pro-life bill. It was the most disgusting thing. You had these aborted baby dolls that they brought in.
Dude, what?
Aborted baby dolls.
What?
They're dolls that were turned into look like aborted fetuses.
Oh my God.
They were brought into the Capitol, and they would smash their heads against the wall and different things. It was unbelievable.
And why was this okay? Was this falling under the guise supposedly of freedom of speech,
I
freedom of
guess,
religion?
yeah.
What?
But when, the cool thing is when the church showed up, and you literally heard hymns of praise in the halls of the Texas Capitol, and we got it done in like 2 weeks. And it occurred to me, wow, the church really does have a presence, and the church needs to have a place in our Capitol. And so when I came back in 2019, I started holding worship services in the Capitol on Tuesday nights, and we'd have anywhere between 20 and 200 people that would come in. And just every Tuesday night, we did a worship service inside the Capitol.
We're at in the Capitol.
It was down in the conference center in the extension.
Okay.
And it was really cool. It was really, really cool. And members acknowledged in both the House and the Senate, there's a different feel and a different vibe, if you will. And something really cool happened at the end of this session. The speaker had killed my bills that stopped the social transition of kids. So we passed a bill last session that limited and that stopped the gender mutilation through surgery as well as chemical. Yeah, but the kids were still transitioning. Why? Well, because they were being socially transitioned in the schools. And again, Burrow sent my bill to Ken King's committee. Ken King is a Democrat. He's an awful, awful Democrat person, calls himself a Republican. He's a vile human being, because anybody that can call themselves a Republican yet allows this kind of crap to go on, the gender mutilation of children, the social transition of children.
Oh my God.
Ken's an evil person. I don't know how he closes. I don't know how Ken King closes his eyes at night, knowing what he has done to these kids. But the deal is, you cut a deal with Democrats, you cut a deal with the devil. And this is one of the bills that they did not want heard. So what I have always done is I've always turned all my bills into amendments. And I think I shared that earlier. And so we turned this bill into an amendment. And we kept looking for something to put it on. And there was one bill left. And we had an amendment, my amendment. And I gathered with Tony Tinderholt and Nate Chasline. I said, guys, pray that the Spirit of God puts a spirit of confusion into the Democrats. It's 11:30 at night, and we just prayed a quick prayer that God would do that and God would give us favor. And it's the funniest thing, guys. I go and I file the amendment. Mary Gonzalez comes up to me. She's from El Paso, and she's in charge of the LGBTQ caucus for the Democrats. Yeah, they have their own caucus.
Wow.
And
Of course.
Mary's sweet little girl. She considers herself to be pansexual, which I'm not quite sure what that is.
Whatever that is.
I can't keep up.
Hide the kitchen utensils, right? But
Right.
Right.
But anyways, she's pansexual. So anyways, she comes up to me, says, I am tired. It's late. And it was only about 11:30, right? Which we're on the House floor some nights till 2:30, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning at the end of session. But she was just like not having it. She was angry and tired. And she goes, if you'll lay your bill out in 30 seconds, we won't call a point of order on it. And I said, I'll lay it out in 15 seconds if that's the case. And so I walk up to the front mic and I see two of the LGBTQ caucus members reading my amendment, and they start bolting towards the back microphone because they're going to call a point of order on it. So I said, Mr. Speaker, members, my amendment bans the social transition of children in our schools, move adoption. And that quickly, Burroughs brought the hammer down, and that bill became law.
Wow.
And
Whoa.
it was purely because I'm convinced that they would have called a point of order on it somehow, some way, and it would have been sustained by the Democrat parliamentarian. But you ask, yeah, we saw a lot of cases where the hand of God moved in front of us to give us victories that heretofore we would not have seen.
That is amazing. That
That gave me a little goosebumps.
That's amazing. Now, Steve, that's in Texas, and Texas has its own problems, and the evil that's in Austin is it's really vile. Washington is next level. Now you're going from demons to Beelzebub. What's your plan? I mean, you've got to be thinking about protecting yourself, not just physically,
Oh yeah.
but spiritually. I know you've thought about this.
Yeah. So number one, I don't live alone. I never have. When I've gone to Austin, I've always lived with somebody. I don't drink. You've got to do things that you've got to handle yourself in a way, but that is above and beyond how you'd normally handle yourself here in back home in the district, where you carry yourself simply because you're going into a really bad area where people want to hurt you, and they do want to hurt you. They're not looking out for you. They don't have your best interest at heart. They want to harm you, and they want to hurt you. And if you go into it with that kind of expectation and understanding, and you have people praying for you, and one of the things that I took from my dad, he said, start your day and end your day the same way, on your knees. And I've always done that. I didn't do it early in my life, but it's been something that the past 20 years of my life that I've absolutely been doing.
Yeah, pray for St. Michael in those battles, man. Because this is that's the belly of the beast. But really appreciate you you coming into the studio here. Steve, let's shift gears a little bit. Talk about you as who is Steve Toth? Let's give a little bit of your background, your family. Talk about yourself for a little bit, if you could.
Small business owner. Let's see, Babette and I have owned this business together for going on about 20 years. Been married for 40 years.
Man, congratulations!
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, we're I just, it's so funny. About 2 years after I got married, I went into the school. I had a sporting goods business, and this Mike Masser. I said, my wife went to school here, and he goes, what's your wife's name? And I said, Babette Herb. And he goes, Babette Herb? You married Babette Herb? How did you score that?
Oh, that's awesome.
And I said, God's grace, baby, God's grace.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right. But I've married way over my head, and God gave me something really special in her, and that she's the most honest person I have ever met. And I didn't know at the time that would be something that would be so incredibly important to me, and that I would need so desperately in my life. But she, if you've heard the expression of Proverbs 31 woman, that is my wife. She's just the most amazing woman. She's my great friend, and I love being with her. We have 3 incredible kids, Katie, Connor, and Hayden, and they're all married off. They've all married spouses that love the Lord. And cool thing, Katie, in June of this year, 6 years ago in June, she made me a grandpa. She had twins.
Awesome.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
And then 6 years later, May 31st at 11:50 and June 1st, 12:05, my son Connor and his wife had twins.
No.
Yeah. And so, Hayden, we're waiting on you, buddy.
No pressure.
Come on, get busy.
Pop 2 out, man. Let's go.
Yeah, let's have some kids. Let's have some kids.
I'm also an ordained minister. I'm not a preacher. I do marriage and family life counseling. I've been doing that for years and love doing it. And was affiliated with Mighty Oaks for a number of years, and Chad Robichaux, and it's just a wonderful ministry that he started, and it's going through to this day. It's 15 years into it, and they're just doing amazing work at reaching veterans with the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Can you talk about when you first got into running for? Is that the front? Can you check the front real quick?
Yeah.
Is that door locked?
Go ahead.
Did you hear that? Anyway, Steve, if you could talk about your getting into politics and what that looked like and how that all came about.
What's crazy is that in 2009, the Texas House passed a bill called the Pool Light Safety Act, because so many millions and millions and millions of people across the state of Texas were dying from pool lights, which obviously that was not happening. But it was during an economic downturn in the economy in 2008, 2009, and licensed electricians were not getting a lot of business because they weren't building. And so they wanted part of our business, the pool the pool service business, and our technicians were not licensed, and so they forced licensing on us. And here's the reality: is that the only time anyone was being hurt in a pool and electrocuted was typically when a master electrician put the pool light in and didn't know how to bond the light.
They left exposed.
Because
Wow.
they've never been doing it. They've
Right.
never done it before. Right. And so they forced licensing on us, and I then had to. There was a shortage of technicians that had licenses, so I went from charging $45 an hour back then to put someone in your backyard to fix your equipment to $115 today.
Jeez.
And that's all because of licensing. And I was so mad that I decided to run against the guy, and actually didn't want to do it. My wife talked me into doing it, running against the guy that joint authored the bill. And I thought, that's why I'm there. I'm going to come to the state of Texas, and I'm going to fight for small businesses that create 80% of the jobs in the state of Texas. And that's really the genius of the Texas miracle coming out of that recession, depression in 2008, 2009. Texas alone, one single state, created 40% of the jobs in the United States during that recovery period. And 80% of them were small businesses that did that led that recovery. And I thought that's why I was there. It's just there to keep the boot of government off the necks of small businesses. And I've enjoyed doing that over the years, but I think that's just what God used to get me to go there. I quickly became embroiled in public education. And my very first year, I passed a bill that banned C-scope, which is Common Core. It was trash. It was a reimagination of U.S. history, teaching kids that the cowards that flew the planes in the World Trade Towers were actually freedom fighters, yet the men that poured tea into the harbor in Boston were terrorists. They taught that the highest form of an economic system was not capitalism, but it was communism. They taught that the leading problem in the world of global warming was oil and gas and agriculture. I mean, all basically it's the engine of the Texas economy, right? And so I took that on my freshman year. I passed it out of the House. Dan Patrick actually passed out of the Senate. I carried it in the House, and it became law, and C-scope went away. And that just has become my mission, is fighting for kids.
Well, and that I gotta imagine that's gotta be very fulfilling, almost addicting when you get some wins as significant as that under your belt, because public education is ground zero for a lot of this warfare.
It is. And so in the 87th session, I passed a bill banning critical race theory in our classrooms. And that's at a time when no one really had heard of it. No one was saying, hey, we got to get rid of critical race theory. It was by God's grace that a young woman by the name of Allison Weekly Putnam, who lived in California, called her dad and said, Dad, Rep. Toth has a bill. I don't know the guy, House Bill 3979, and it deals with critical race theory. And her dad is Dick Weekly.
I was going to say, was that from the?
Yeah. Dick Weekly, and Dick's like, what's critical race theory? I've never heard of that. And so she started, educating him on it and sending him some books on it. And by God's grace, if it wasn't for Dick's help, we would not have passed that bill in the 87th session banning critical race theory. It was, and it became really, what's cool is it became the standard bearer for critical race theory bills across the United States. Texas was the very first one to pass it, and it's landmark legislation. And so,
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Before this was a vocal point across the nation.
Right.
This was in the early onset of this, because this, folks, this is an agenda that's been going on for a very, very long time. So we're now seeing the results of this, and it's good to have people like Steve come into these positions and get things done. So we're really excited and very hopeful to see you in that seat, replacing Dan Crenshaw. This is a step up, and yeah, we're praying for you, man,
Gotta
because
make it happen.
you're going into the belly of the
beast.
beast. And I think some of the audience would like some of these questions. But before I get into those, tell me about how you met my pops. I want to hear how Steve Toth met David Thomas Roberts, and I need at least one story about how uncomfortable he's made you at times.
You're gonna get more than one.
Good.
So it was February 2013. No, that's not true. It was May 2013, and late in session, and it was about 3:00 in the morning, and I was living with Michael, the Haug family, and Michael and his wife, and I don't know if it was Michael or it was his wife, threw this book on my bed in my room, and I had been drinking caffeine, energy drinks all night to stay awake on the house floor. I couldn't sleep, and this book was on my bed, Patriots of Treason.
Yeah.
And your pop's first book. And I was like, crap, I can't sleep. I might as well read this stupid book. I picked that book up and I could not put it down.
That's awesome.
And I was and I'm a terrible reader. I'm dyslexic. I struggle, but I was so captivated by the book that I read 3/4 of it and lost track of time. It's like 9:00. I'm like, I got to be on the house floor at 10, put the book down, grab a shower, head to the Capitol, came back, finished it that evening. And I think I called your dad and asked to meet with him. I was blown away by it. I was blown away by the story. I was blown away by the writing style. It was just so easy to lose yourself in the book. And I'm still to this day wondering why no one has picked that book up for a movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and he had the sequels and everything to it. Man, that's really cool, because that was right around the beginning of all this, when nobody wanted to touch anything to do with my dad, especially from a publishing perspective. And here we are all this time later doing the Defiance Daily Show with Steve Toth in the office. I think it's just it's not an accident. I'll just put it that way. So after you read the book and you had a conversation with my pops, what did you come away thinking after that?
Well, nothing. I loved your dad. We ended up getting together at the 1836 saloon, myself, and I think it was Ted Siegel were the first ones that met with him, and I just really enjoyed getting to know your dad. And I met Randy at that time too, and but it's funny because it's a love-hate relationship with your dad, because you'll come across a bill that you'll vote on, and your dad will call me up and be like, why the H did you what is effing wrong with your brain right now, Toth? Why did you vote that way? Right? And Dave was just never short on words. And I'd walk him through it, and he's like, all right, okay. But I mean, he was just, what I loved about your dad was he was just always you always knew where you stood with your dad. He never sugarcoated anything. He just, this is where I stand, and if you're there, great. If not, screw you. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, most of my it's just funny because the saloon and everything, I pretty much, over the part of a decade, came to know Steve and seeing him at the house, and it's just really exciting stuff. And I know my dad really liked you, and on behalf of the family, we're really appreciative of you trying to get him memorialized. I know we have some shenanigans going on there, but it's our mission to
That was just freaking crazy.
it was, and for folks that don't know, there was we getting memorialized on the floor. I guess if you bring back a certain breakfast menu, that gets memorialized at the Capitol Grill there at Austin. But as far as my dad's name, yeah, people had a problem with that, and I know he was. My dad was a bull in a china shop when it came to a lot of things, but really appreciate what you did there. And now that's kind of the baton's going to pass on, and we're working to make sure
Good.
we're going to keep the memorialization efforts going. They can't keep it down forever, and I think that spirit of my dad would appreciate that. We'll just keep kicking and screaming until someone just does the damn thing. So
go.
really appreciate you doing that, and especially with the state flag, just
That was-
absolutely awesome stuff,
that was-
Steve.
I remember that was
So
cool.
really appreciate you for
That
that.
was
So
really cool.
yeah, folks, for those in the audience, there is a little bias here. We love us some Steve Toth. Okay. So y'all make sure to go out there and vote for him. All right. No, Steve, really appreciate you coming into the studio. Let's see where else we can go. We've got almost an hour left. I don't know if you have anywhere else to go, but we can shoot the breeze a little
Well,
bit.
we could go, but, one of the things that I wanted to ask was,
Yeah, Mark, what do you want to ask?
well, I've got.
I'm gonna hog it up, man.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I like to listen, and I appreciate Steve being honest and transparent, which is kind of rare. But who are some of the people you're looking forward to? And again, I'm being a little assumptive here. Maybe you're not. I don't know what the, man, we can't assume that I'm going to be there, but I'm just being positive. Who are some of the people that you're looking forward to working with in Washington? I know there's very few that are worth a damn, but are there some in particular that you look forward to joining forces with? And what is some of the legislation you've had to think about, some of the things that you'd like to see bring to the floor as far as any sort of bills or anything like that that you'd be interested
I
in?
love Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes, MTG.
I love Jim Jordan. I love Jordan because he's a wrestler,
Yeah.
and he never wears a coat. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's always buttoned down and tie and stuff, but he never wears a jacket. Which that's a wrestler thing. I was a wrestler. You could tell he was a wrestler because he's got the
Cauliflower ear.
Mhm.
I was too vain as a kid. Like I really took care of my ears, and and so I never got mine torn up like his. But someone asked me, well, how come he never wears a suit jacket? How come he never wears a sport coat? And I said, well, you're a wrestler. You never know when a takedown clinic's going to break down.
Right.
You have to just throw down right then and there and go after it.
Oh yeah.
But I love him. He's brilliant.
Eli Crane is one of my favorites up there, and I know he's great because they won't put him on a committee. They won't let him do anything.
I don't know.
Look him up. He's a congressman out of Arizona.
Okay.
Really a phenomenal guy.
Yeah, Jim Jordan. That's funny you brought up the cauliflower. You know how you know not to get into a fight with somebody? You look at their ears.
Yeah.
Some of the I've seen some incredible beatdowns, people that are in wrestling or maybe they ventured into MMA. You really don't you see those ears like that, you want to go be friends with that guy.
Especially if they're like 5'8", 5'9", real wiry, 145 pounds, and you would
I would have queued up the video to Mark's point to that. There was this was my dad enjoyed this story because it was they were Oklahoma football players. They got into a spat with these two brothers, and they were smaller in stature, but you could see. I mean, they were those ears. They didn't have ears; they were just like blocks, basically. And apparently, these two young brothers, they go in Norman. I don't know what anybody's doing in Norman, but they're in Norman, and they get into a spat with these two Oklahoma football players. Long story short, apparently these two kids had grown up in cage fighting since they were
They knew
11 years old.
Yeah, they knew jujitsu.
They knew jujitsu. They knew everything in between, and they were actually trying to get away and not. People that know how to fight, they don't go
don't
and start
escalate.
fights.
They
They
don't
know that they need to be calm and under these scenarios, but these football players wouldn't relent. And I wish I would have had that queued up, but they got the snot beat out of them by these two young. And I mean, they were on the ground in the bathroom, getting beat up under the urinal stalls, so they were getting dragged through it. So listen to you, folks.
Yeah.
Look for those ears, man. You
Ears,
see
man.
cauliflower on those. You don't want it. You want that to be your buddy.
You guys should get Chad Robichaux on your show sometime.
Well, we would
From
love
videos.
to. Can you help us with that?
Yeah, I will.
All right, we're going to line up a bunch
Chad's
of interviews
awesome.
with Steve.
But
Yes, he is.
Chad's got the
Straight-
same mangled ears. It's
Yeah, and he's what 5'5", maybe 6'6".
I don't know.
He's short.
It's
Well,
funny.
you
It's
just-
so funny. Like he's self-deprecating humor, right?
Yeah.
He is short, and it's funny
Yeah.
because like he limped into the office one day, and I said, "What's wrong?" He goes, "Oh, I fell off the toilet."
Oh goodness.
Good old jarhead humor, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask a similar question along those lines. Who have you enjoyed working with in the Texas Legislature the most? Who have been some of your go-tos, so to speak?
Probably Nate Chasline and Tony Tinderholt this session. They're amazing men. They love the Lord. They're stalwart conservatives. They're constitutional conservatives.
Yeah.
I'm kind of different in that, like most people, the longer they've been there, the worse their record gets. Right. I came in my first year. I was 15th out of 150, and I probably, if you could best describe me as a freshman, I was a big government Republican, and I didn't know I was.
Right.
I'd like to write a book someday, Confessions of a big government Republican. But that's really truly what I was. If you're watching a show, if you're watching Dateline or 2020, and you say, "Wow, if I was in government, I'd fix that. If I was in government, I'd stop that. If I was in government, I'd correct that. If I was in government, I'd make sure that never happened." You're a big government Republican.
Right. Exactly. There needs to be a law.
Yeah, there needs to be a law.
There
Gotta
needs
have more laws.
more agencies.
And it was- yeah.
More funding.
laws,
But
yes.
there was my freshman year, there was a sophomore by the name of David Simpson. And David said, "Steve, government is force.
Yep.
That's all it is."
Amen.
So he had this, and he got me to read Bastiat,
Yeah.
the law. And he started, getting me to listen to Ron Paul. And I was like, oh, wow, there's a constitutional role, really limited constitutional role for government. And then the rest is supposed to be left up to us and the standard of our moral judgment, which is why one of the founders said, our Constitution is wholly inadequate for anything other than a moral and religious people,
Correct.
because they have to limit themselves, because this Constitution is so weak that it cannot limit you. You have to limit yourself. And we've lost that.
Yeah, the self-respected, self-accountability type of mindset. I mean, it's just a rare thing these days. And now when you see it, it's almost a heroic aura because it's so rare. I do got to ask, when you were introduced to Ron Paul and his material, did you ever hear about him beforehand and go, "Oh,
yeah.
that guy's a kook, man. That's
total crackpot."
total." That was yeah. Me and my dad, I remember getting into it back when nobody was rallying around Ron Paul. It was a lot of my age group at that time. And then he got on those debates, and it was just absolutely inspiring. But yeah, at first it was at the same ordeal with you, because it was with my dad. He thought Ron Paul was just the kookiest thing, and then out of nowhere, him and Randy, I remember driving down I-45. Have y'all heard of this Ron Paul guy? It's like, Dad, that's who you've been making fun of with me for years. But I'll let you. I'll take the credit for introducing him to you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were your thoughts on that, Ron Paul?
I mean, he's a national treasure. He really is. And I think he's done a lot. He's done far more, I think, to influence my generation and younger generations than probably anybody, probably even than Rush Limbaugh, I would say. So yeah, I don't think a lot of people would be reading Bastiat today if it wasn't for someone like Ron Paul.
Good point.
Yeah, Ron Paul coming in. There was a lot of folks that didn't even know the Federal Reserve was a private institution.
Exactly.
They thought it was a branch of the federal government, and that's. I know Rand still carries a lot of those efforts as far as auditing the Fed. Can you speak to that a little bit? What are your thoughts on auditing our private bank for the first time in history?
No, I completely agree. It needs to be audited, and it's ridiculous that you'd give a small group of appointed people that kind of power over our economy, that there's no paper trail at all to hold these guys accountable for what they're doing. None.
Yeah, and it's incredible. I mean, a banking institution like that, the power it wields is you can't understate it. So, yeah, it's exciting to see some of this stuff, and I can't go through the show. I know the audience will want me to ask, what do you think about President Trump's second term and how he's doing so far?
Joseph, when and this is an Old Testament, Joseph said to his brothers that sold him into slavery, said, "What you meant for evil, God meant for good. What you thought was going to destroy me, God used for a blessing for me." And they stole the election from Trump in 2020. There's just absolutely irrefutable evidence. I don't care what Dan Crenshaw says or anybody else. I mean, I've looked at it. I've spent enough time studying it. I've talked to as many people as you can possibly talk to. It was stolen from him.
Absolutely.
And it was stolen from the American people. But the blessing is that Trump came in 2024 5 times wiser than when he came in initially in
Agreed.
2016.
Agreed.
So, he brought in people like Jeff Sessions. And as soon as when he said Jeff Sessions was going to be the Attorney General, I was like, that is such a huge mistake. People are like, no, Sessions is awesome. He loves Trump. And I said, he sucks up to Trump.
Mm-hmm.
He sucks. And you're like, how can you say he sucks? He loves Trump. And I said, he loves Trump because he sees the Trump train. He wants to be on it. But I said, if you're the lion of the Senate, if you're the most powerful person in the Senate, then you had to kiss a lot of backside, and you had to measure up to the swamp pretty tightly in order to get there. And sure enough, once he got in, he was pathetic. And Trump got rid of all those players this time, right? And he brought in outsiders that have the same level of skepticism and that he now has. He's twice burned once, twice smart. And actually he's been burned multiple times now along the ways, right? He's been burned every chance they get. They've tried to kill him multiple times. They've tried to throw him in jail. They've created, literally impeached him with laws that aren't even on the books. How do you do that? How do you impeach somebody with laws that don't even exist? How do you say to somebody in the New York courts, we're going to make it a criminal or a civil offense, a criminal offense, and hit you with a huge civil fine of $500 million because you paid Stormy Daniels money and you paid for it out of your own personal funds. You didn't pay for it out of your campaign funds. Well, if you paid for it out of your campaign funds, that's illegal. And FEC says you go to jail for that. Federal Elections Commission says you go to jail for it. So literally, the New York prosecutor said, yeah, but you did it. You did it to protect yourself politically. Therefore, you should have paid for it out of your political funds. Well, it's illegal. You can't pay for it out of your political funds. And so anyways, this is just crazy. Or when they want to say what the value of his resort in, what's the name of it? Mar-a-Lago is worth
18 million.
It's worth 72 cents according to them, right?
Oh,
And it's just so crazy, and yet you can't buy dirt. You can't buy dirt adjacent to Mar-a-Lago for 5 times that amount of money, 10 times that amount of money. So look, they have done everything they can to try and destroy this man, and I think it's brought out in him a new sense of resolve and a lot of respect for people like me that are like, gosh, if someone had done that to me, I'd have withered and died.
Yeah, I would have stepped back. Yeah, that's a lot to carry.
It is. It's just enormous. I mean, look how he's in his 70s. You're like,
He's
it's just
late
I
70s.
don't, man. I don't.
Late 70s.
Well, I think putting a little cocoa powder in my coffee helps me.
Oh
I don't know what
my God,
Trump's
I
doing,
don't
but
know
I
what-
need some of that.
He's a freak of nature.
He is a freak of nature, but I think most people would have gotten discouraged and said, "Whoa, no
Oh,
mas,
yeah.
no mas, no mas, no mas," but not Trump. He's
It's
just
like the
No,
more
he did the opposite. He did
did the
full
opposite.
tilt.
Oh,
This is a different
Game on,
administration.
man.
This one.
Yeah, I'm going to take you on. I'm going to fight you even harder. Now I know
Well,
who you are.
And I think it really shows a lot of people who may have been on the fence. I mean, he's coming in there and you're seeing the judiciary just blocking every and the excuses for doing it. I mean, nobody can look at it and say, oh, they're doing their job and he is overreaching. This is absolutely a desperate attempt. And it to me, it kind of speaks to that spiritual battle that we were talking about earlier, because this is what we're up against. And if they're willing to destroy your family, and let's be honest, 2 assassination attempts, we still know next to nothing about the shooters. There's still a whole lot of
I mean,
mystery.
oh my gosh, like you guys are proficient in the second, and like you've looked into the scope of a high-powered rifle, right? And if you look at the kind of rifles that those guys are using, big high caliber 50 caliber sniper rifles, like how do you find that guy 1 second after he pulled the trigger to hit?
Man, and see,
You had him in your sights. You had him in your
and
sights.
the whole
Thank
crowd,
you.
the whole
Exactly.
crowd is
You had him
seeing
in your
this.
sights.
Yeah.
You had him in your
Steve,
sights.
you're
And if it had
nailing
been
it.
Biden, if it had been Clinton, if it had been Barack Obama, they'd have shot that kid as soon as they got him in their sights because they saw he had a gun. Boom, he'd have been dead.
Well, and not only that, then the you talk about when he's on his golf course and you got a guy with a fully loaded AK-47 automatic weapon. This guy has ties to
Ukraine.
efforts in Ukraine. What is going on?
What's going on, Steve?
What's going on? I mean, and that's the other thing too, is I don't even think Trump knows. I think he's got an idea. So this is where the conversation gets interesting, because
The only way any of this stuff is going to come forward is whistleblowers, right? Like
That's
the
it.
only reason we're finding out that Barack Obama had conspired to destroy Trump in 2016 was because a whistleblower came forward.
And
It's the only way you're going to know. It's the only. It's there's so much information, but the pool in which the information is in is an ocean, and the amount of information relevant to uncovering this stuff is a drop in an ocean. And so it's going to take whistleblowers that are going to come forward that try to do the right thing, that want to have peace in their mind that they did the right thing on their deathbed, that they weren't covering up this incredible injustice and travesty.
yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point, because it will take heroics from the inside. I agree with you. That would be the key to uncovering a lot of this. And folks don't really understand, as far as this political machine and out of Washington, D.C., it gets bad enough where you will absolutely get killed trying to whistleblow. And so people do sacrifice a lot being in those positions. And, you hope to see more of that. And an administration like this hopefully encourages people in those positions to do that. But just because Trump's in that office doesn't mean that the power on the evil side of this is just going to go away. Trump's one man.
I mean, everyone in Washington, they see all these people that came down with Clinton's suicide syndrome.
Yeah.
The double taps to the back of the skull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I guess if I speak up, gee, What could happen to me?
And you almost wonder if a lot of the messaging to this is geared towards the people who are on the inside. So when they come out on TV and say, "Oh, we don't really know much about this shooter," that's almost a message to say, "Hey, good luck, and yeah, shut up because we will lie to the American public. So you can only imagine what we'll do to you if you decide to step out of line."
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So Trump's cabinet picks have been a night and day difference from the first term. And I think here on the show, probably, I don't know, RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard are probably two of our favorites right now. Definitely a bold alliance. What a strategy for Trump and bringing them in. But what are your thoughts on oh, well, let's start with RFK Jr. I know he's been in the news all week. The hearings have just been so entertaining, and then we'll jump over to Tulsi and your thoughts there.
Can I go macro level first?
For sure.
Absolutely.
So Donald Trump, it's funny because everyone said of Ronald Reagan, he's the Teflon president. He's the ultimate communicator. Bull.
Right.
Donald Trump has rewritten the book on presidential communication and Washington speak. And he understood what made him successful over the years is his ability to get out a message and to control a news cycle. And so he was done with Washington insider politicians. And instead, you look, he's gone to Jeanine Pirro, he's gone to Tulsi Gabbard, he's gone to all these guys, Pete Hegseth, all these incredible communicators that can not only accomplish something, but then communicate and tell what they did. And that's always been the weakness of the Republican Party. We do all these great things. When we do something great, no one ever knows about it.
Oh yeah.
And we don't know how to control the news cycle to let you know about it. And so, yeah, he's brought Jeanine Pirro, he's brought in just these incredibly gifted and talented communicators that have this ability to convey a message. And anyways, I think he's an amazing man. Our RFK, I don't know how anybody in their right mind argues with what that guy is saying. We are one of the
They
sickest.
sure are.
We're one of the most. We're one of the sickest nations in the world, and we have been complete sellouts to big pharma
And big ag.
Big ad, the
Yeah.
big food industry. Well, he
Yeah.
was saying on the during this inquisition he's been under this week and trying to I guess force his resignation. Good luck with that. It ain't gonna come. But you're talking about chronic illnesses from the 1940s sitting around, what was it, 6 to 12%? I mean, we're in the 76% range.
We're at 80,
Why
80%.
anybody would freak out about mass firings at these agencies that have done nothing but failed us is beyond me. So here's a question for you. Do you think there are benefits from what happened with COVID and the healthy skepticism people now hold, not just for the government as a whole, but including these feel good health agencies? Is it right to question them, or is it wrong in your opinion?
COVID, again, the blessing of COVID
There it is. Yep.
is that we've really got to see the federal government and this incestual and sick relationship between big pharma and the federal government. And they showed us their hand in a really dramatic way. When you've got something that you rush through the process as quickly as they did, and now I love the fact that Trump is saying, hey, there are a lot of people that are saying that maybe this isn't as safe as what we thought. And, I've been told that, I've seen these studies that Pfizer and these pharmaceutical companies showed me and about how great this is, but, you haven't seen these. But yet we're starting to see other things that have come to light too about the COVID shot that aren't, those are pretty disturbing. I think Trump is actually trying to find a way to do a soft landing on this thing with COVID, these COVID clot shots.
Yeah, and we've seen some of those efforts as far as RFK, the mRNA pause. I think it was a $500 million pause on those projects. And the way here's how you always know when they're onto something. instead of arguing against what he's saying, because if you really listen to what he's saying, he's basically, on the whole, trying to apply what he calls a gold standard of science
Right.
to the testing. And I didn't know the vaccines that he's speaking about, they don't go through the same protocols as a lot of other drugs do. They got a whole other system for this kind of thing. So they say anti-science, anti-vax, anti whatever the case may be. That's when you know he's more than likely onto something. So what do you?
Most Americans don't even know. Most Americans don't even know that they're actually vaccine courts. So like
That's right.
you can sue Pfizer, Pfizer or whoever, Merck, for a drug that you use, and it goes into the courts and it's argued in the courts, and there's a judgment, and whatever. Not with vaccines. With vaccines, there is a vaccine court in Washington D.C. and the payout happens by the federal government. It's our taxpayer dollars that pay out to the injured party, and it's sealed. You're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to tell what you got. You're not allowed to tell how the judgment went. All this is kept under wraps.
That's right. Yeah, people don't know that. A vaccine injury compensation fund as well is also out there. And apparently RFK, a lot of his interest came from those courts because he got a little insight into this stuff. And like Steve said, it's sealed. So these institutions, this money that is taxed from us to supposedly protect us, is very clearly doing the opposite. And that's where things get interesting about the question is to, and this is something I say a lot, Steve, is how long can you blame incompetence or stupidity before you start asking yourself if it's intentional? And I think that's a deeper question. I'm not trying to put you on this philosophical spot, but it's very
It's not incompetence.
it's just
Right.
when it keeps happening persistently and the same thing over and over again, you got to ask yourself. You do have to ask yourself that. I deeply believe that.
Well, it's kind of like this thing with Dan Crenshaw, right? He's outside the Capitol last year, 2 years ago, or it's like last year, and it's around the TikTok hearings and the fact that the Chinese, right, are garnering information and they're influencing, generations with the crap that's on TikTok, and Crenshaw is talking about how they need to be censored and shut down, and this guy then says to him, this rogue individual says, "Well, what about what our government's doing to influence, misinformed American citizens?" And he said, "Like what?"
Oh
He
my
said, "Like
goodness.
what?"
Well, there was the famous interaction on the and he was talking about the election integrity where he just basically shot it down. It's like there's nothing to see here. There's nothing to do that. Push the mainstream, and he's silent on a lot of different
Well,
issues.
this guy shot back and he said, "What about the laptop? The
Oh yeah,
Hunter Biden laptop?"
yeah. There you go.
And we were told by the Justice Department that it was just Russian misinformation. And he goes, well, those guys were retired. Some of them were, but some of them weren't. But clearly, we're lied to about that, right? And you're like, there's so much misinformation that had been coming out of the federal government, and you're either complicit in advancing it or you're stupid. And I got news for you. Dan Crenshaw is stupid. He's
Yeah,
a really smart guy.
He's very smart.
yeah, and you can definitely kind of the mainstream avenue for a lot of these politicians. You can see it immediately. I mean, it was very obvious to me. To me, he was when I first heard of him, I said that is John McCain 2.0. He's just got an eye patch now, and he's the same type of he's cut from the same cloth. And these type of neoconservative politicians, I think they are long overdue. We've done a good job over the past decade or so of getting a lot of them out, but it's a revolving door with these critters, and he's no doubt one of them in our estimation.
Steve, were you at the Tea Party, Montgomery County Tea Party, the night that he made an
Yes.
ass of himself?
Yes,
Talk
I
about
was.
that.
You were, because I was there. In fact, I was standing right behind. What's the young lady's name?
Well, lay it out for the so what
Okay,
what
Steve, I'm gonna let you lay it out, okay? Because that was the night it kind of Dan Crenshaw's world kind of exploded, and his crazy wife was there. Which, by the way, she's farging crazy. You don't have to agree with that, Steve, but I can say it. So anyway, lay that
you're
out.
gonna
because-
get you're gonna get his
Steve
goons
doesn't-
here at our office,
no,
man.
Steve didn't say that. I'm saying bring his goons. But I'm telling you, Steve, go ahead and lay that out because I was there. Anyway, go ahead. That was an amazing evening.
The young woman is Lana.
Lana, that's her.
Lana Burkhart.
I was standing right behind her in the line to go ask Steve a question. And that's when, anyway, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah,
Tell the
so
story.
probably a month earlier, I had heard, and the reason why I wanted to go to the Montgomery County Tea Party that night was because he was speaking, because I was wondering if somebody was going to ask him about that. But a month or two earlier, he was on a podcast. And
Jocko Willits. It was Jocko where he talked about the
societal archetypes.
Yeah, archetypes. Yeah, it was Jocko Willits.
And he said, as a people, we need societal archetypes. And the guy goes like, what? He goes, well, like Spider-Man, Superman, Jesus Christ is a societal archetype. And we have real ones too, like Abraham Lincoln and Rosa Parks. And you're like, whoa, wait, what? We have real ones too? Are you kidding me? So you just said Jesus isn't real. I'm like, wow. And so I did. I went there that night wondering, is this going to come up? And I got there late. I got there just about the time Lana came up to the microphone. And she said, how do I deal with the fact that, and then she read the quote. And she goes, how do I get my arms around that? And he said, you put a period after Jesus and don't question my faith.
Bingo.
Boom.
Just like that. Dude. I mean,
and you're like,
he said it like that too.
You could, there's not an ounce of grace. There's not an ounce of humility in the guy to be able to say, you know what, young lady, I probably answered that the wrong way. That was probably pretty silly the way I answered it.
And she's a sweet little thing. She looked like, first of all,
and
Travis,
then, and you know what? But
she was so
Mark,
sweet.
the whole thing would have gone away.
I know.
But
I
instead,
know.
But instead, it was on the Michael Berry show.
Oh yeah.
He
yeah.
called Michael Berry a liar.
It was,
And somebody sent him a tape of the meeting and sent it to Michael Berry. And Michael Berry then spent 2 weeks telling the truth about.
well, it made Fox News.
Yeah.
It made everything, right? And you're like, man, is there just no grace in you whatsoever? Think about over the years, like things you've said, and you're like, wow, I didn't handle that right. I guess I could have communicated that a little bit differently. But it just kind of goes to this narcissism.
Yeah,
If I would have questioned him, it would have been one thing. But Lana, and you have to see, because Lana, I think she was like 17 or 18 or 19, but
I
she
don't know,
looks
man.
like she
She's a
was
little
12
thing.
or 13.
She looks like she's about 6.
Sweet little innocent. Literally looks like a little sweet teenage girl. And dude, he jumped her butt.
Yeah,
He's
I don't think that worked out for him. And judging from the little bit that I saw during campaign, some correspondence, that dude, something wrong with that boy.
No, there's something off with
Something
him.
wrong with him,
Something's
man.
off.
Well, it's like when he went after Tucker.
Yeah.
That was a
Right.
bold strategy,
That was
Cotton.
a bold
It's just
strategy,
like-
Cotton.
How brilliant was that?
It
Oh,
was- and
man.
and then you heard what he did to Eddie Gallagher.
Yeah.
And now the team got, and SEAL's a pretty tight knit group. They, even when guys do stupid stuff, they don't come out and say anything again. But even the team guys now are out saying, no, this guy is bad news.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
This is your time, Steve. Steve, I think this is ordained. I think this is something. I think your timing's right on it. I know there's been opportunities in the past and people have approached you and say, but maybe I'm wrong. What do you think? Obviously you think the time is right. You're here we are. But are you glad that you waited to this point? And then here's the other question, and I'll shut up. Who's on the bench to take your place in Austin?
Good question.
It's still a wide open field.
Well,
at this point.
we need to fix that. Travis?
It's still a wide open field, but I would just share this with you. I think people are asking me, like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Because we've been really effective. No one has passed more legislation than I have around our kids and parental rights. No one. I mean, it's unheard of. Like between Brandon Creighton over in the Senate and myself, the pair of us have done more for parental rights and protecting our children than any legislators in the United States. And so, like, why are you doing this? And I kind of look at it like, we've got to get it right at the federal level. We're going to have, by the time I get in there, we'll have 2 more years under Trump. Hopefully we're going to have 8 years under JD Vance, if that's who it is. We'll have 10 years to turn the ship and to turn us in the right direction. Because if we don't turn this ship, if Trump's not successful, if we continue to have more fair weather Republicans like Dan Crenshaw, all of a sudden, John Cornyn and Dan Crenshaw are all of a sudden, just big supporters of Donald Trump, which they weren't.
No.
They're fair weather people, which means that when Trump's not in office, they're going to go right back to playing with Democrats and holding hands with Democrats. We need people that are going to fight Democrats. We're going to need people to go to Washington and speak truthfully and say, no, what they want for our country is evil. It's flat out evil, and we need to fight them and not equivocate. And that's why I want to do this. We've got an opportunity to turn this around, and I want to be part of that.
I think it's very promising too when you have a record like yours. It just speaks volumes to someone like yourself versus an unknown coming in as a challenger. Maybe they're coming out of left field. There's a proven track record here with Steve Toth. Highly recommend visiting Steve Toth for Congress.
Yes.
Hitting that donate link. Get on there. Get familiar with the campaign. Put your weight behind him. And let's make this happen. Let's see what happens. And
Get active.
it's been very exciting, very awesome to watch what you've done over the years in the Texas Legislature. I can only imagine how effective you'd be at the federal level. I think that's pretty exciting.
Cool beans, guys. Great to be with you.
One more thing before we go, we got to ask about that damn Epstein list, man. What are your thoughts on that? We can keep it open-ended. We can edit this out.
No, that's fine. So here's the reality. Epstein came down with a bad case of Clinton's suicide syndrome.
Yeah.
Right?
Clinton side.
But the reality is that Biden has had all the Epstein material. And if there was anything in it that could have hurt Trump,
we would have seen it.
We would have seen it. Right? They would stop at nothing
Right.
to destroy Donald Trump, including bringing down some of their friends if that's what it meant.
Exactly right.
They would absolutely stop at nothing to destroy Donald Trump.
Bingo.
If there was anything in there at all that could destroy Donald Trump, they would do it. So I have no doubt that there's nothing in it that has anything to do with him, because the Democrats would have brought it out.
Yeah, and we've emphasized that too.
I still want to see everything come out. I will push for everything to come out. If I have anything to say about it, I want all of it to come out, because I want these pedophiles to be run out of town in a rail, and I want to see them hurt as badly as they can be hurt.
Well, and that in tandem with, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would like to know who is still in certain positions that were involved in this.
Right.
I think that's the biggest takeaway. If there was Trump details in there, we definitely would have seen it by now.
Yep.
I think now it's just a matter of, I think the general population is clamoring for arrests. We got to see some people go down for this, because if you are in a position holding power and you've been compromised by this, and those are the other questions, are there other countries involved? That's been spun around a lot. So I think, to your effect, as a congressman or a senator, I really think there's only so much you're going to be able to do.
Right.
And people have to have a realistic expectation to that, because there are people in positions that really could unfold this. But I think it's fair to assume that a lot of the operation may still be going on, and a lot of the people that were involved, they might be around Trump.
Right.
It doesn't mean that Trump is culpable to it. It just means that, guys, this is a much deeper issue than we're expecting, because this is an ancient old practice of compromising politicians.
Correct. Absolutely. That's why you've got to be smart enough to know that you need to keep a healthy distance from it.
Yeah, and you get closer to God. Okay,
Avoid even the appearance of evil. And if if you're wise enough to do that, then you'll survive Washington. You'll survive Austin.
Absolutely. Well, Steve, I really appreciate you
Let's
joining
close this
us.
out in a prayer.
Yeah, let's
Let's pray for Steve real quick, okay?
You gonna lead it?
Yeah, I'll lead it.
Go ahead.
Father God, we humbly come before you today, and first of all, we just appreciate the opportunity to talk to our friend Steve. And Father God, we want to pray that you put a hedge of protection again around Steve, around his family, his kids, grandkids. You know what he is walking into. We pray that you protect his mind, you protect his physical body, and guide him. Give him wisdom. Give him your wisdom. Show him the way. He's going to be, there's going to be the forces of evil out against him. And Father, we need him as a warrior in Washington, not just representing us as a people, but sharing your love and your message. And we need to take Washington, D.C., we need to take the United States back to be your people. And we thank you for your mercy. We thank you for your grace. We thank you for Steve. We thank you for his family. And we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, you guys. That was awesome.
Steve, thank you so much. All right, I'm not going to end the recording here. Steve, if you stand up back here, it's kind of it's a video, but it's also